Rica, Finca Rosa Blanca, Tortuga Lodge, and Monteverde Lodge and Gardens. This map shows all of our partners, so I won't be going through all of those today, just those three, because those are the three that I visited when I was in Costa Rica. In April, at the end of April, I was lucky enough to get out to Costa Rica for only about 4 or 5 days, and then went down to Ecuador for a trip to see our partners down there. So I'll start. I will be starting with our partner, Finca Rosa Blanca. If I can get the cursor to work. Which is a hotel situated just north of San Jose in Costa Rica. It's here just about a 20 to 30 minute drive from San Jose Airport, and it's near Alajuela. It is set in the most beautiful countryside, surrounded by really lush forests up in the mountains just north of the city. It's about a 40 to 50 minute drive from the center of San Jose. So if you want to avoid a lot of the traffic that comes in and out of the city, if you've got passengers who just really want somewhere to spend the night at the beginning of their itinerary, in the middle, at the end, before flying out, then this is really ideal because you've got this beautiful, lush surroundings around the hotel itself, up in the hills, and you've got this incredible view out across the Central Valley and to San Jose itself. You're missing out the hustle and bustle of the city, and you're surrounded by this beautiful coffee farm as well, and a lot of wildlife, and you're really only 20 minutes out of the city itself. The hotel is kind of situated in and around this forest, as I said, and you've got some beautiful kind of paved paths and little roads that take you out to the different rooms. This picture here on the right shows you the main building, which has the Rosa Blanca suite, as well as many of the other rooms. And this map shows you a little bit about where the rooms are situated. So coming into the hotel itself, you're coming up to where the reception is and the restaurant is, and then you've got the gift shop and everything like that, and then you've got these little pathways and little roads that take you out the outbuildings, if you like, of the hotel. So this one here is that photograph I just showed you, with the big tower, and then you've got the pool, which is up here, just up a pathway. Then you've got 3 different villas. The Ranchito Suite, which is just 1 room. You've got 2 villas here, which are 2 rooms. You've also got this small one here called the El Cielo Suite as well. So this is just to give you an idea of where the different rooms are situated. So this is a photograph of the interior of that main building. As you can see, it's got this very kind of eclectic style. It's got this kind of really interesting kind of murals and artwork and mosaics. The owners of Finca Rosa Blanca, Terry and Glenn, they've always owned it. They have always been the sole owners of this place, and they have put a lot of their own artwork in here. They've also commissioned lots of different local artists as well to make sure it's got that real kind of Costa Rican touch to it. A lot of all of the mosaics are done by local artists, as well as all the murals as well. They actually also built quite a few of the buildings themselves. It's been a huge passion project for them, their whole lives really. And everything is kind of harks back to this idea of it being surrounded by this beautiful coffee farm, as well as basically surrounded by jungle and wildlife as well. This is the Rosa Blanca suite, a photograph which shows the 360 panorama of the room, and it's a suite which is built over 2 floors. You've got this really large living area, huge bathroom, and then these incredible views out across the valley from the room itself. All of the rooms, as you can see already, are designed completely differently. They're quite different sizes, they've got different views, they've got different amenities, whereas this one, for example, has got its own covered jacuzzi and gardens with its own terrace. This one's called La Karatera, which has a really beautiful balcony. Can I just request that everybody make sure they're on mute, because I think I can hear some background noise, and I should be able to do that, but if everyone can make sure they're on mute, that would be great. So yeah, this is the Karatera Suite, which has this really beautiful balcony. It has a jacuzzi behind those chairs as well. These are actually my own photographs that I took because I stayed in that suite myself, and it's got these incredible views out across the valley and the mountains beyond. This is one of the smaller suites, but it still has this really lovely little living area. And then you've got these villas out in the gardens themselves, which you find through these little winding paths. They all have these little seating areas as well. This one's called El Ranchito, which is actually right by the pool. It used to be their kind of barbecue area, but yeah, very kind of eclectic mix of design and artwork. And individualism. That's what I really like about Finca Rosa Blanca. They really put their mark on a lot of their suites by having them all designed really quite differently. But they're exceedingly comfortable. They all have a lovely coffee station as well, where you can make your own coffees in the morning, and kind of local chocolates and snacks and things like that as well. Their pool is spring fed, and it's chemical free. It's a 22-meter pool with a little waterfall, and it also has a hot tub up here above this white structure here. So they use like a copper silver ionization system to sanitize the water without any need for chemicals, and it's a really, really beautiful aspect as well. Again, it has these incredible views out across the trees to the valley beyond. The restaurant at Finca Rosa Blanca is very well known in the area. It's open to the public, but it's not that big, and so they do prioritize their guests as well. But it is some of the best food in the area. Absolutely, it takes a kind of a farm to table approach, and it is. They recently hired these new chefs as well. This guy here, he has curated the menu to produce some really innovative dishes. So he prepares them all with seasonal organic ingredients, which, you know, is quite standard now across kind of high-end hotels. But he himself is a culinary historian. So that means he has an interest in some of the world's oldest recipes. And so he uses these and incorporates them into his dishes using kind of the freshest elements, but also a lot of kind of Costa Rican and tropical influences in that. So it's a really great experience to eat at this restaurant. This, for example, is something I had, the actual dish that I had when I stayed. And it's actually a reconstructed idea of a traditional Costa Rican stew. So as you can see, it's a very different and interesting plate. Now, the hotel does stand out for many reasons because of its design, its location, the tranquility that surrounds the hotel. But really, one other thing that really makes it stand out is their shade-grown coffee plantation. So together with the organic soil, shade, and damp air, this creates perfect conditions for really excellent coffee production. It's a certified organic coffee farm. They don't use any agrochemicals or pesticides, herbicides, or fungicides. They only apply the richest compost from their vermiculture and composting of organic refuse from the hotel itself. And they can only utilize natural remedies to combat the crop pests as well. So whilst guests are at the hotel, they can do a 2-hour tour of the coffee plantation. And they run these daily. Quite often they'll run them twice a day, either in the morning and the afternoon. Quite often it might depend on the rains as well. And so you're taken around the coffee plantation by one of their guides. Ulysses is their guide who's been working with them for a number of years, and he's incredibly knowledgeable about the plantation, about the coffee process. He's grown up in the area, he knows it very, very well. And so you're taken on a tour around the plantation and then taken to the coffee house where you're given a tasting and a cupping. It's a fascinating coffee tour, and one that's very kind of personal, and one that's, you can tell that people have put a lot of work into it, basically into the shade grown coffee. And interestingly, even if people are not interested in the coffee plantation or coffee drinking themselves. One of the reasons why this is also a really interesting tour is that it is lots of trees, obviously, because it's shade grown, and so therefore you could let of birds in the area. They once had an ornithologist stay who said that he saw more species of birds in Finca Rosa Blanca than he did in any of the other properties he visited in Costa Rica. They might not have been the most extraordinary or exciting birds, but he was blown away by the amount of birds he saw. So even if you have someone who's not necessarily interested in the coffee process, quite often people are interested in the in birds in Costa Rica, and so that's one other aspect of why it's a particularly good tour. So yeah, that's those are the main kind of key selling points to Finca Rosa Blanca. I think, as I said, it's this really beautiful, tranquil property not far from San Jose Airport. You can get out from Finca Rosa Blanca very easily to other destinations. So Monteverde, for example, which I'm going to go on to next, and of course Tortuguero. You can go down to the airport very easily as well. They can organise transfers, but of course your DMC can do that for you as well. So now I'm going to go on to Monteverde Lodge and Gardens. If you do have any questions, if you could save them for the end, that would be fantastic. I'll be happy to answer anything for you. So Monteverde, as you probably well know, is a popular destination in Costa Rica for its different type of ecosystem. So Costa Rica is obviously known for its incredible beaches, its jungle, its dense jungle and incredible wildlife. And then, of course, Monteverde is known for the cloud forest and being slightly higher elevation than the rest of the country. So it's about a 2.5 to 3 hour journey from San Jose Airport, slightly longer from the center of town. And this journey takes you through lots of different kind of areas as well. I really love this journey. I first arrived into Costa Rica at about 9 o'clock in the morning on Avianca via Bogota. I was hot and sweaty and tired, but it was just wonderful taking this 2.5 to 3 hour journey up through the mountains to Monteverde, going past the Gulf of Nicoya as well, where you have these really amazing views of the sea and the beaches and local life. And then you're stopping at a cafe on the way up to the mountains, to try a bit of your first taste of Costa Rican coffee, and you're watching these beautiful birds and the mango trees. It was great to be back out in Costa Rica, and that was my first kind of real taste of being back out, and it was absolutely perfect. And then coming up to Monteverde is I think is a really great place to start, because it's not boiling hot weather. You've got an incredible amount of wildlife. You've got an opportunities to see the quetzal and sloths and monkeys and all of this, and so I think I always imagine Monteverde to be a great way to start an itinerary, maybe after Finca Rosa Blanca. So Monteverde Lodge and Gardens, I'm sure a lot of you know this hotel well anyway, having been a really well-established hotel in Monteverde for a number of years. It was recently taken over by Buena, so Luz and Roberto, owners of Pacuare, La Barrios, Tortuga Lodge, and now Monteverde. Very recently, in the last year, it is the fourth lodge of their Buena collection. It is a short walk from Santa Elena village, and also a short drive from Monteverde Cloud Forest, as well as the other national parks in the area. So you've got the Santa Elena Cloud Forest Reserve as well, whereas the Curicancha Nature Reserve. So as you can see, it's very much within the whole area of Santa Elena and Monteverde, where many of the other hotels are located. Now, Monteverde Lodge and Gardens, although it is within this kind of quite relatively built-up area, it really feels isolated within its own grounds. It does have its own private reserve, which all the Buena properties do, and it has these really, really beautiful gardens that the guests can explore themselves. So as you can see, the property is surrounded by, again, this lush forest, as well as these really beautifully designed and landscaped gardens that are right outside the hotel themselves. You've got these really lovely lookout points dotted around the gardens as well, and lots of nooks and crannies for guests to enjoy the gardens. They put out benches here and there next to their large pond, for example, but also little trails that take you out to other little lookout points. This is a recently renovated lookout point that they've got where guests can choose to dine if they like. So it's a really wonderful place to watch the forest come alive. They've also got this beautiful solar heated pool, which is nestled in the gardens. It's a really lovely place to come down and just watch the steam come off the pool first thing in the morning. And it's open until 9 p.m. at night. And they've got this lovely area beside the pool, which they are actually renovating at the moment, which has a little bar and lounges, fresh towels and changing area as well. So we'll go on to the rooms. So most of the rooms at Monteverde Lodge and Gardens are the same or similar. This is a photograph of the forest view upstairs and forest view downstairs. So the forest view downstairs, as you can see, have these covered balconies. And they're just down by a stream. There's a stream just below where these are. And then the forest view upstairs have these more open balconies. So the forest view downstairs have 4 with one king size bed, 4 rooms with one king size bed, and 8 rooms with 2 double beds. And there's 12 of these rooms. And as you can see here, they've got this lovely aspect of the covered balcony. Now there is one of these rooms right at the end of the building that actually also has an open balcony, which is what the forest view balcony rooms have. Which are like this. So they've got these sliding doors and the forest view balcony, which are open, and all of these rooms have king size beds. Now, as you can see, the Montevallo Lodge and Gardens, it's one of those properties that is always busy. There's always people staying here. There's always people coming through, and it's a fantastic hotel for families as well as couples. And it has been one of those places that is very well known and very popular, which means that Lucy and Roberto are finding their time and finding their pace with this hotel in terms of renovating it and putting on what you might call a Buena touch. So with Lapa Rios, for example, they were able to change 6 of their deluxe suites into the Lapa Villas and the Premier Villas quite quickly. Whereas with Montevallo Lodge and Gardens, they've managed to renovate the rooms and put up this new wallpaper and change all the linen and change all the mattresses and change the furniture. But they haven't been able to put that kind of quite unique Buena touch on it yet, but it still feels very beautiful. The lighting is very good, and it feels, it feels luxury when you still walk in, and incredibly comfortable, and still very well designed. 2 other categories of rooms. Now there's only 4 other rooms that are within the lodge. So there's 28 rooms altogether. So you've got the 12 upstairs, 12 downstairs, and then you've got 4 garden rooms, which are these ones that lead out into the garden. They all have their own terraces and hammocks. However, the garden rooms themselves, the 3 of them are quite cozy. They're quite small, even though they have this beautiful terrace outside. And they have 1 with king size bed and 2 with 2 single beds. Beautiful terrace that looks out to the garden. And then they've got these garden view superior rooms. Just one of these rooms. And this is by itself, it would be perfect for a honeymoon couple, or a couple having a special occasion, or even a family of 3, because they can put an extra bed in here as well. So they have the super king size bed, they have this lovely living area, and the terrace with the hammock that looks straight out into the gardens as well. I was lucky enough to be in this suite, and it was absolutely stunning. As I said, this was my first stop on my trip to Costa Rica this time. And so, with that 8-hour time difference, I was wide awake at 4 o'clock in the morning, but that did mean that I had the opportunity just to see the gardens come alight, and the cloud just lift from the gardens, and the birds all singing away in the dawn chorus. It was just wonderful. It was really, really lovely. These are my own pictures just to show what the gardens are like, through a kind of a layman's eyes. And I just loved wandering around the gardens. I'm a big fan of plants in any case, but I just loved wandering around these gardens and taking it all in and finding little places just to sit and to listen to the birds and to watch out for coatis, as well as sloths and monkeys in the trees. I wanted to show you these pictures, these are mine as well, because just to remind you that this is the cloud forest, of course. And if guests are going to this area, they go there for a very specific reason. They go there to visit the cloud forest. The cloud forest is a fantastic destination to visit for a number of different reasons. It's probably one of the most dense forests you can find. You'll know from knowing about Ecuador, from cloud forests in Peru, from cloud forests anywhere else in Latin America, in that you have the most abundant wildlife and plant life, and so they're going to coexist together. But that means managing expectations of guests, that it's generally going to be quite wet and cloudy, but it's got this beautiful atmospheric kind of feel to it as well. So, swimming in their heated pool when it's got this cloud swirling all around you is amazing, and got all these bromeliads on the trees and mosses and ferns, which I think just makes it all even better, really. But then you get beautiful days when moments in the day when the sun suddenly comes out and you get to explore. One amazing thing about Monteverde Lodge and Gardens, well, there are many amazing things, but it is that they have 1.5 kilometers of their own trails within their own reserve. And so this is over, I think, 4 or 5 different trails, and they are actually expanding that to get more land around the reserve and create more trails, and they all have different names and they have different wildlife that you can spot. I went out first thing in the morning to explore these different trails. I love just being surrounded by these huge ferns, for example. This isn't a particularly good picture on the right, but I saw this heron down by the river here. They're doing some kind of mating dance. So I felt so privileged just to be there by myself in the relative quiet. And this video shows one of their new trails. So you can see how they develop one of their new trails and how you're surrounded by kind of the sounds of the forest. And they're hoping that land there is the land that they're hoping to bring into the reserve and to do some reforestation and some more wildlife trails there as well. This is just an example of the kind of plant life you see on the trails as well. I was quite transfixed by these weird and wonderful tropical plants. But that takes me nicely onto their orchid house, what they're calling their orchid house. So here is an area of the hotel that they have managed to renovate. This used to be a small kind of jacuzzi, hot tub, swimming pool area at Monteverde Lodge and Gardens, which they've now completely renovated into a dining area. And it's where they are housing lots of orchids and bromeliads within this beautiful glass kind of large greenhouse. It's a really lovely place to come and dine, particularly for breakfast. And then up the stairs near the reception area is their restaurant, the Hardine Restaurant. Again, this restaurant is open to the public, but they do prioritize their guests. But it is extremely well known in the area for serving incredibly good food, which I'll talk about in just a moment. They've got a really lovely bar serving up all kind of cocktails, and it's got these lovely views out across the gardens as well. They have a fire there as well, because as I mentioned, Monteverde is slightly elevated, so it can get a bit chilly. And they do also have live music, and just 1 or 2 people just singing in the restaurant on Friday, Saturday and Sunday evenings, which is a really lovely touch. So one thing that Luz and Roberto have really wanted to develop with all of their lodges is their menus. They wanted to become more environmentally friendly with their food and the menus, and they work very closely with the chefs on this. So at each of their lodges, they've produced a plant-based menu. And actually, I'm not vegetarian, I'm not vegan, I do try, but actually when I stayed at these lodges, it was really interesting because I really felt that I didn't want to necessarily choose any of the meat options, and I was very happy to go with the plant-based or vegetarian options because they weren't just your standard, you know, tomato and pasta. They were really innovative and really interesting and absolutely delicious. So that's one thing that I'd highly recommend is, even if you're visiting Monteverde, is to go and visit their restaurant and try the cuisine. They're actually developing a ice cream parlor as well on the grounds, so that's something to watch out for because they've got some really interesting flavors coming through with that, and that's something I'll be able to send around to you once that's been developed. So as I was saying before, Monteverde is a destination for people who are really interested in wildlife, very interested in the environment and ecology and biodiversity, because the cloud forest does house a huge variety of all of these things. So the different excursions that Monteverde Lodge can organise will take guests to these 3 different reserves that I just mentioned, so Monteverde, Santa Elena and Coricancha, and to spot any of this wildlife. You see a lot of sloths, you see a lot of amphibians, but also to spot the resplendent quetzal, which is a very elusive bird, but when I worked as a tour leader many years ago, I was lucky enough to have seen it 95% of the time. I visited Monteverde over 10 times, and you're very likely to see it. So in that respect, if you've got passengers interested in spotting the bird or interested in bird life, then it's a really great destination for that. They do also offer many other tours, so chocolate tours, coffee tours, horse riding, hikes up the local hills as well, and the lookout points. They can, of course, organise the outsourced tours for the canopy tours, so the hanging bridges and the zip lining as well, and rappelling. Now, Monteverde Lodge and Gardens is the only Bowena lodge that is not all-inclusive. So it's bed and breakfast only. And so the meals are extra, as well as all the tours. And the tours are outsourced to a very well-known and well-trusted outfits. They make sure that they talk to all the guides about what guests who come to visit Bowena properties, what they'll expect. And so guests are taken through the tour book. I'll send you a link to the tour book once in the follow-up email. And the guides will take them through each of the tours, what they would recommend, how they spend their time over the 2 or 3 days that they're staying in Monteverde. I would say that it's worth spending at least 2 or 3 nights at Monteverde Lodge. I wouldn't have said 1 night would be enough at all, particularly as if you're going to Monteverde Rainforest Reserve, Cloud Forest Reserve, sorry, then you're likely to be going first thing in the morning, very early in the morning. So you don't want to just spend 1 night and get up early and then have to go on somewhere else. So those are, yeah, that's would be my recommendation, 2 or 3 nights at least. Okay, so now I'll go on to Tortuga Lodge, which is Bowena Lodges took on Tortuga Lodge and Monteverde Lodge and Gardens at the same time. However, with Tortuga Lodge, Bowena have put a lot more renovations, put a lot more of their kind of the style and design aspect onto this property, which I'll show you in just a moment. So transfers to Tortuguero from San Jose take this road up, which can take between 2 to 3 hours. And they take you to a small jump-off point called La Pavona. And then it's a 50-minute boat transfer to the lodge, and this departs at 11 a.m. every day. It is a shared transfer, that boat trip, but it can also be booked on a private basis should your guests want to. In fact, any of the Bowena lodges can book private excursions or private transfers, should any of the guests want to, but this should be done in advance. And so it's something that you might need to work through your DMC with to be able to book those. Either that, or it's a 30-minute flight from San Jose with Sansa Airlines in the small 12-seater planes. And then the lodge is directly opposite the airstrip. So the airstrip is here, and then Tortuga Lodge and Gardens is right here. This is my photograph coming in to Tortuguero on the plane. As you can see, the airstrip is here. And as I said, the hotel is literally just opposite. So it's a 30-second transfer from the airfield. And the flights do go daily. Some of them go via La Fortuna. They also have a luggage restriction on the luggage, and they weigh you with your hand luggage. But actually, quite often, depending on how many people are on the flights, they are quite flexible. So that's something to bear in mind. But again, something to talk to your DMC about if you need any more information. So Tortuguero as a destination is a 330 square mile kind of reserve, which 2/3 of it is marine reserve. So it's, you know, it's one of the only marine reserves in Central America. And as you will already know, it's popular for people going to see the turtle hatching and the turtle nesting. So that's why this whole area has been protected. And before Tortuguero was kind of set up as this massive tourist destination, all the turtles were being hunted locally for their meat and their eggs. And so it's been an unbelievable conservation project, really, that it is now completely protected and only used for tourism. And the hotels which you find there, which you'll see on this photograph, are all nestled in this whole this jungle area either side of the lagoon. So this is the picture you get when you're crossing the river or the lagoon, sorry, from the airfield. If you're coming in from La Pavona on the transfer, then you take this kind of boat from La Pavona for the 50-minute transfer to the hotel, which in itself is an excursion. I didn't take it, but I've taken it before many years ago. And then I talked to guests who were staying there, and they said they already saw so much wildlife by the time they arrived at Tortuga Lodge. So this is an aspect of Tortuga Lodge, and this boat here is the kind of boat that you take to go out on your natural history tours and the different excursions. So they do have a range of different boats depending on the type of transfer that people are doing. So as you saw, the hotel is set right on the lagoon. It also has its own private nature reserve behind the hotel itself. It's got this really beautiful pool, again, with natural water, and it's naturally heated as well. So the hotel itself, the lodge itself, has been completely renovated. They are using the same structures, but they've changed the entrance to the buildings. They've completely given it a new lease of life. They've repainted it all in these very bright colors. They put up new balconies, completely renovated them inside. It's got this really incredible kind of Victorian Caribbean bright style to it, which we really love, and it's just got a lot of light coming in, and yeah, a new lease of life. It's really fresh and bright. So there are 29 rooms in 3 different categories. The ones you can see here are Miss Evelyn, Mr. Mishak, so they're like the superior rooms, if you like. This is my photograph of the entrance, which is behind the modules, which used to be, the entrances used to be at the front of the modules. So you've got the 2 rooms downstairs and 2 rooms upstairs. So the Miss Evelyn rooms upstairs are incredibly spacious, very airy. You've got a lot of light coming in, and the lighting itself within the room is beautiful. 8 of these rooms and 4 different modules. Each of these rooms has air conditioning plus a fan, and as well as these are actually screen doors as well as glass doors. When I stayed, I felt I didn't even need the air conditioning, just had the fan on. The fan was incredibly efficient, and you had this lovely breeze coming off the water into the room as well. They've got these really beautiful balconies with swinging chairs, and it's a beautiful place to watch the sunrise. Again, this is one of my photographs, as you can probably tell. So when you're facing this way, you're facing exactly at sunrise. And then if you go to Tortuguero town and you decide to go for a beer there, then it's a good place to go for sunset because you're facing in the opposite direction. Got these huge bathrooms as well with these large walk-in showers. in the bathrooms, they also have the storage for your clothes and your luggage as well. So the Mr. Mishak rooms are the same size as the Miss Evelyn rooms, but they have their own little terrace that look out on the gardens and the lagoon. They are a slightly different price point to the Miss Evelyn rooms, but still just as spacious and still the same kind of light, air conditioning, fan. Yeah, really, really beautifully made up. And then you have the Riverview Rooms. Now, very recently, Lisa and Roberto have renovated these rooms. When I was staying at the end of April, they started renovating them 4 days before I arrived, and they are due to be ending just about now. So we are just waiting for those updated photographs of the Riverview Rooms, which are now being renamed as 6 Miss Perla upstairs and 6 Puppy Brown downstairs. Just to note, all the rooms are named after first residents of Tortuguero town who are still alive and still living in the town, but they wanted to recognise the heritage of Tortuguero. And quite a few of their family are people who actually work in the hotel. So they've got this really lovely personal touch to kind of the naming of the rooms. They're also including fans and air conditioning in the renovation of these rooms. And that wasn't something that they had when they first opened about 6 months ago. They're also taking these windows and turning them into full floor-to-ceiling sliding doors. This is what the rooms look like inside. Again, quite spacious, a lot of light coming in. But as I said, they are being completely renovated. So these windows will be converted into the sliding doors and sliding windows. They will have hammocks hanging outside on the terraces as well. So watch this space for a bit more of renovation coming for those. And then their beautiful Miss Florentino Villa. This was the only building that was built from scratch in the lodge, and this is built on the end of their land, just on a kind of peninsula and surrounded by water and trees. And it's a beautiful villa that can sleep up to 5 guests and has its own plunge pool and terrace. So this really does have the Buena mark on it. This is a bit like one of the Lapa villas, for example, with a bit more color and a bit more kind of Caribbean feel to it, with the furnishings and everything like that. So they've got this extra living area where you can put extra beds, a huge master bedroom area, this big terrace with the lovely plunge pool, huge bathroom. Actually, they have 2 bathrooms in this one villa, this one large bathroom and then one by the small living area as well. So I know I'm running out of time. I hope everybody's doing all right, but we're almost there. So in the kind of communal areas, they have the pool that was always there. It's a really beautiful aspect. They've got this lovely fountain there as well, and it has these aspects out to the lagoon. Guests can eat around the pool, and they can set up a specific area for guests to eat. But the main dining room has enough space for everybody. And again, it's got this lovely breeze coming off the water, and it's a really beautiful place to come and have each of your meals. Tortuga Lodge is all inclusive, so all of your meals are included, all the excursions, many of the excursions are included, except for alcohol and a few of the tours. Now, Tortuguero itself is popular mainly for the incredible wildlife spotting you can do here. It isn't known as the Amazon of Central America. Straight after I stayed here, I did go to the Amazon in Ecuador, and they are comparable, I'd have to say. Obviously, it's not as prolific as you'll find in the Amazon, not as kind of iconic as that, but you are going out in boats like this, first thing in the morning for the natural history tour. Before breakfast, you're given coffee and cake before you go, and then you come back for your breakfast after a few hours on the water. And you're very likely to spot any of these animals, plus lots more. These are my own photographs of the birds that were there, the herons and the storks. And then we saw caiman and many, many other animals, including the basilisk lizard, which is here. It's a very small picture of it, but I was really glad to still be able to spot it. And what's amazing about this trip is that you do go out to the channels with lots of other boats from different hotels. I mean, it is something that you've got to bear in mind They have all these channels that go in and out through the reserve. But then our guide took us on a few of the channels where there wasn't anyone else, and we just floated down this river, and we were able to just take our time and really enjoy the sights and sounds of the reserve. They have a few kayaking excursions, but when I have developed this one kayaking excursion, which takes you way out from the reserve to this lagoon, which is an extra excursion, and it actually connects with the local communities there as well, which is really interesting. Our guide took us to a canal which again didn't have any tourists on it, and we had the best experience. It was really wonderful, and we saw loads of wildlife ourselves. We also went on the Tortuguero hike. I wasn't expecting to see much wildlife, but we saw lots, and we were able to look way out over the lagoon and the town itself. And then this hike is actually up a lot of steps, so it's not a hike on kind of ground itself. So you're out on the canopy looking out across the forest. We also have, there we go, the Town and Turtle Conservancy tour. So you learn a lot here about the sea turtle conservation. You're shown a video, and you're given a lot of information on the different species of turtles. Twilight tour in their own reserve, which takes 2 hours, and you're wandering around the reserve, and then you come back ready for dinner. And this is a really fantastic trip because they have a lot of ground themselves, which is wonderful. And then, of course, the turtle nesting and hatching, which goes from July to October. Now, when I was talking to one of the guides here, they told me that they thought September was a really great time to go. It's optimum season for turtle hatching and to see the turtles. Now, this is all run by the national park, so it is outsourced and it is extra, as is the long kayaking excursions I mentioned, and a chocolate experience which they can do in town for you as well, done by local people who have their own cacao farm. But yeah, the turtle nesting and hatching is done by the national park, as with any of the lodges that you stay in Tortuguero. And they go at either 8 p.m. or 10 p.m. There are 10 people to a group, and you walk along the vast beaches of Tortuguero, and that's where you can spot the amazing turtles, and you're pretty much guaranteed to see them. So those are the seasons for that, and it's a really, really special experience. So that sums up kind of my trip, what I saw when I was visiting each of these different lodges in Costa Rica. Right, now, do you have any questions, I wonder? I apologize for having gone over that. So how long do you recommend to stay? In each of these lodges, I would say, well, for the Finca Rosa Blanca, I would recommend at least one night. And I know it's probably a stopover hotel, but if you're spending 2 nights there, then you've got time to relax into your journey, or just have a time at the end to relax at the end of it, and make sure you take that coffee tour. I think that's really a good thing to be able to do in the area. Hiring a car is definitely Costa Rica is really conducive to hiring car hire. I'm sure most of you already know that. The roads are fairly good in most places. One thing I forgot to mention is in La Pavona near Tortuga, they do have a safe car parking area for guests who want to make their own way up there. They also have that at Pacuare as well, so that's one thing to bear in mind. If people want to drive down to near where Pacuare, take people then onto the rafts, they do have a secure area where people can park. And English speaking is very common. Costa Rica is their main and only their main industry is tourism, and North American tourism and European tourism, and so the English of the guides and the drivers is excellent, and all the hotels are indeed open. I think that is all the questions from Klaus. Does anybody else have any questions that they want to put in chat, or they can unmute themselves and ask me? I'm happy to answer any questions unmuted. Thanks. Okay, well, what I'll do is as I mentioned, I'll send you through a copy of this presentation, also send you, because actually one thing that I might do is quickly show you the media center that that Buena have. So this is their, oh no, this is their rates. So this is their media pack. So Buena Lodges have media kits for Pacuari Lodge, Lapa Rios, Monteverde and Tortuga. And each of those have the rates, fact sheet, tour book, what to pack, photos and explore. So you can download any of that you want to. I'll be sending a link to that into the follow-up. So yeah, thanks very much for everybody coming along this afternoon, and I will let you know about the next webinars we'll be holding. We'll doing one with Tierra very soon, the Tierra properties in Chile, and then maybe one with Cayman and a few others. So thanks very much for coming along.